So thank you everybody for joining today. We're really excited for this little lunch and learn about this issue of extreme heat and ways to mitigate it, specifically in the industrial business zones around Newtown Creek. The presentation will be about 40 to 45 minutes, and we want to open it up to questions. If you have any clarifying questions, please put them in the chat. We can try to answer as those go, but we ask that people hold bigger questions till the end of the presentation. So thank you all again for joining. So we'll start here with the next slide. So we're Newtown Creek Alliance. We're putting on this presentation today. We're a community-based nonprofit organization established in 2002 with the mission of revealing, restoring, and revitalizing Newtown Creek. We do a lot of education work to inform people about the waterway, the history, the environmental challenges, the impacts, the opportunities, etc. It's a lot of work with school groups. It's also a lot of work with the general public. We also do a lot of restoration and planning work, street end sites like pictured here at Plank Road in Maspeth, Queens, and trying to create more opportunities to reintroduce a lot of the ecology that has been so decimated in the area. We also do this revitalization advocacy work. That's things like the Superfund process that the EPA oversees and upland polluted sites that surround the creek, like the Greenpoint oil spill, water quality issues like combined sewer overflow, which significantly impact the area, and obviously presentations like today, things like extreme heat and lack of tree canopy, which impact local residents and workers directly. So today presentation, myself and Sandy. Sandy's going to be doing the vast majority of the talking. She's done an amazing job of running this project and the research. I'm just here to help moderate the Q&A, give the intro and all that. We have a few other team members on the call as well. Hart and Audrey who are here, Tess, our education team as well. And that's that. So we'll go to next slide. Okay, so a little background. We're not going to spend too much time on the history of the creek here, but just everyone's situated where we are, Newtown Creek, the border between Queens and Brooklyn, about 3.8 miles long to the furthest reaches. And as we'll talk about today, one of the big considerations for Newtown Creek is what's happening in the area surrounding it. And it's primarily an industrially zoned area around Newtown Creek, which has a lot of impacts environmentally, human health, etc. And so where it's going to play into this project specifically. Okay, next slide. So this project was specifically concentrated around the head ends of the creek, what we call the East English Kills and the East Branch tributaries, which are near East Williamsburg, Bushwick, Ridgewood, and Maspeth. And these areas, as Sandy will describe, are severely impacted by a lot of environmental challenges. And so this project was funded through the New York and New Jersey Harbor Estuary Program, and it was specifically looking at tree canopy, lack of tree canopy rather, in this area close to these tributaries and ways to improve it. So that's just a general background. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Sandy to drive us through the whole presentation here.
Thank you, Willis. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator at Newtown Creek Alliance. So we know that New York City is hot, and I think that most people here have experienced it, especially since we already had 2 heat advisories this summer, and we'll have another one tomorrow. So this is a map that New York City Council developed showing the Landsat satellite imagery of New York City's surface temperature. So this is showing us the temperature of rooftops, parking lots, street, and tree canopy on top of the trees. So a higher surface temperature is associated with higher risk of death from heat waves. And as we can see here, there are clear hot spots and cold spots of the city. So the around area of Newtown Creek is really hot. LaGuardia Airport and JFK is really hot. And also when we look at parks, it's much, much cooler. Like Central Park, Prospect Park, and Forest and Highland Parks in Queens are much cooler. But the surface temperature is just one aspect of how we experience heat. Our socioeconomic background determines if we have the means or resources to protect ourselves from heat. So the city's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, I know we have some folks here who joined us today. So they developed the Heat Vulnerability Index, which shows neighborhoods whose residents are more at risk for dying during and immediately following extreme heat event. So it uses a statistical model to summarize the most important factor of neighborhood heat risk. So surface temperature, like I mentioned earlier, and during the surface temperature is during the day, and percentage of green space in the neighborhood, and households with air conditioning and income. So as we can see here on this map, Central Brooklyn, Upper Manhattan, and the South Bronx, and many parts of the city have very high heat vulnerability. So differences in heat vulnerability across neighborhoods are rooted in social and economical disparities. And these disparities stem from structural racism, which includes neighborhood disinvestment and historical policies such as redlining. So what is contributing to the heat that New Yorkers are feeling? So New Yorkers, I'm sure that a lot of people here have already heard about or learned about the urban heat island effect. So the materials that build our city, that makes our lives so convenient, are incredibly good at holding the sun's heat during the day, and then re-emit it out at night. And compared to the areas upstate or more rural areas, New York City has a lot less trees and vegetation. And all of these factors combined create a phenomenon called the urban heat island effect. And in fact, New Yorkers feel the urban heat island effect more than anyone else in this country. New York City's built environment is making temperatures almost 10 degrees Fahrenheit hotter for the average resident. So the urban heat island effect not only affects how city residents experience heat during the day when the sun is out, but research has shown that urban heat island effect is usually at its largest during calm, clear, dry summer nights. Because cities like ours bake in the summer sun, and they store a lot of heat in roads, buildings, and other structures, and releasing it out at night. And as a result, the largest urban-rural temperature difference, or maximum urban heat island effect, is often 3 to 5 hours after sunset. So now we're zooming into Newtown Creek. So what does this citywide urban heat island effect look like for industrial business zones? So this is the full range heat anomaly dataset of the US in 2023. The yellow is the mean temperature of New York City, and the black lines is the boundary of the industrial business zone. So we can observe here that the area that has the most intense surface temperature largely follows the boundary of the industrial business zone. So why is it so hot around Newtown Creek? I'm going to introduce the area in Newtown Creek a little bit first for folks who probably haven't been here before. So the areas surrounding Newtown Creek are the North Brooklyn Industrial Business Zone and the Math Pass Industrial Business Zone. The IBZs are comprised entirely of manufacturing zone land, so there are a wide range of businesses operating in these zones. So there's waste management, concrete mixing, smart carpentry shops, and I had the awesome opportunity to visit a chocolate bar and spreads factory, and my favorite dumplings are also made here in the IBZ. So with this wide range of businesses, there are a lot of people working in this area. So how does the IBZ's built environment contribute to the intense heat? So there are 5 main factors. So common building materials, the IBZ has a lot of large industrial buildings. They're made from bricks and concrete, and the roads are made from asphalt. These materials can absorb up to 95% of sun's energy, and that's a lot of heat stored. And during a very hot summer day, asphalt and concrete indirect sunlight can be as hot as 180 Fahrenheit. And I looked it up and I want to know like what that number means. And it turns out it's the temperature of pasteurization. So very, very hot. And waste heat is another factor. So the businesses in the IBZ run equipment and move their materials and products. These operations release heat into the surrounding environment, and that raises the air temperature. Similar to when we cross the street during a red light next to idling cars or trucks, or standing next to a renting AC unit outside of someone's home, we can feel that heat coming off of those machines. And direct sunlight is another very important element, because that is the reason why we feel the heat. It's the sun. So we know that we feel much hotter when we're in direct sunlight. So right now, I think it's about 85 Fahrenheit out there. And if we stand in the sun, we can probably feel close to 100 degrees if there's no wind. So air pollution. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the term hazy, hot, humid. This phrase came up a lot when I was researching the heat waves last year in 2024. This phrase to me shows the very entangled relationship of hot weather, humidity, and air pollution. So when temperatures rise, so can air pollution levels. And hot air temperature encourage the development of ozone, which is a clear, odorless gas that irritates our lungs. And ozone is also the main component of smog. So ozone forms when pollutants react with heat and sunlight, which we almost have very often here in the summer. And it forms near the ground, which is called ground level ozone, where we live and breathe. And that is why when there is a heat advisory, normally there is an air quality alert that follows. So I talked about how direct sunlight can increase how we experience temperature by up to 13.5 Fahrenheit, which is about 7.5 Celsius. And other than sun, when we think about heat or temperature for the day, we're probably using the weather app on our phones or watches. But that is just one aspect about how we are going to feel the temperature when we're outside. So the number we see in our phones from is from the weather station closest to us. In this case, for me, it might be from the weather station at LaGuardia Airport because I'm currently in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. But this temperature might not be what we actually experience when we're outside because it is measured in the shade. So we have talked about surface temperature. It's what the satellite sees heat from the space. So everything from rooftops, water bodies, and open streets and parking lots. And humidity is extremely important factor in how we feel heat, especially in the summer, because our body sweats to cool ourselves down. And if the air surrounding us is full of water, it could be very dangerous it could be very dangerous because we're not able to sweat as effectively. So the heat index is developed to combine humidity and temperature to more accurately inform people about the temperature outside, which is also called the field-like temperature. So when we get a heat advisory, the agencies are assessing the heat index. But there's one important note about the heat index. It is a model from 1979, which is about 45 years ago, and is based on a healthy person who is 5'7" and 140 pounds sitting in the shade. And that is not everyone, that's not me. And lastly, everything else in the environment is also holding heat and emitting it out to the environment that we're in, which is called main radiant temperature, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it later. So that is all to say, there's a lot of factors that go into how we feel heat. And if we're only looking at the numbers on our weather app, that is not the full story about how a person working in the industrial business zones is gonna feel. So luckily, a group of researchers at Hunter College combined all of these static factors that go into how we feel heat, especially in an urban environment like New York City. So they came up with a measure called the Outdoor Heat Exposure Index that includes the main radiant temperature, which is a percentage of, this is going to be a long explanation, which is the percentage of outdoor spaces where people feel comfortable with the current temperature in their immediate surrounding environment. And there's the surface temperature, cool roofs, which are rooftops that have light color coating to reflect the sunlight, and tree canopy and permeable surfaces, which are land covers that can absorb water. So I was very fortunate to meet with Mehdi, the professor at Hunter College, who developed this portal. And let's see, so here is a close-up for our study area. So the parcels here that we're looking at are divided by neighborhoods. And that is why Ridgewood is a much lighter color compared to MathPath. It's because it also averaged out the more residential area further in Queens. But if we cut out the parcel and only looking at the area near East Branch, it's gonna be much redder and hotter. Okay, so main radiant temperature. These are the individual static factors that contribute, that is calculated in the outdoor heat exposure index. Which is the environment that contribute the heat that doesn't constantly change, so static factors. So here we're looking at main radiant temperature. So everything in the environment that surrounds us, including the hot asphalt road, the trees, the brick buildings, etc., things that are on the street level. And here is the area of the crew roofs, crew roof area. So the dark blue color that we're seeing here are actually the roofs that have lighter color that are able to reflect more of the sunlight. And then the crew roofs are also able to absorb and transfer less heat from the sun because they're more reflective and lighter in color. And permeable surfaces. Area with porous surface materials that allows water to pass through them, which reduce stormwater runoff, and it can also filter out pollutants and recharge groundwater aquifer. So permeable surfaces such as soil or grass retain much less heat, and it can mitigate air temperature and the main radiant temperature. So right now we're looking at the breakdown of East Williamsburg. East Williamsburg has a score of 4.4 for the outdoor heat exposure index, and and then that is the highest number out of entire New York City. It's way above the New York City average because it has very little tree canopy, has very high surface temperature, it has very high main radiant temperature. So New York City also identifies East Williamsburg as environmental justice area. So we need to pay more attention to neighborhoods who have higher outdoor heat exposure index and figure out mitigation strategies as well. So I also encourage folks to explore the urban heat portal themselves to find out about the outdoor heat exposure index in your neighborhood. So what is impact of heat? Heat has been referred to as a silent killer by governments globally. And the reason why they use this word silent is because compared to other weather events like hurricanes or flooding, there's no direct image that people immediately associate with when they think about heat-related death. So in the US, heat has killed more people than any other weather-related event in the past 30 years. In New York City, 570 people died due to heat in 2024. The intense heat around Newtown Creek has a significant impact on people who work and live in this area, and for businesses that operate here. So heat reduces how good we are at doing our jobs. And that goes for office workers like myself, and especially for people who work in the IBZ, their workload is much more intense. So heat also decreased productivity and costs the US about $100 billion every year in lost productivity. And heat can also worsen people's existing illnesses. And in New York City, every summer, more than 500 New Yorkers die due to heat. And energy is another important factor to consider especially for businesses. Con Ed has increased our electricity rates by 25% since 2020. And they're proposing another 11% increase in 2026. And the hotter the area is, the more energy that is needed to cool the facilities for the workers' health and also safety. And of course, equipment and hearts don't do well in heat at all because they are not designed to withstand this much heat this frequently, and they can malfunction and create safety hazard. So one of the main reasons why the area surrounding Newtown Creek is so hot is the severe lack of tree canopy. So this is the data from the 2015 tree census that the city did, where volunteers and organizations surveyed the street trees in the entire New York City. So they do the survey once every 10 years, and we're gonna have another one this year as well, which I'm very excited about. You can see that there's barely any trees that is near English Kills and East Branch tributary. And when I first showed this map to one of our partners, they were very surprised and thought there must be a data glitch. But unfortunately, this is a reality that we're facing in the Newtown Creek area. So here we're looking at NOAA's canopy data. This includes both the public street trees and also trees on private property. So invasive species like the tree of heaven is included in here as well. And I want to show the current tree map because the Parks Department have planted additional trees in the IBZ in the past year. And I personally really love this map. It's probably one of my favorite maps. So this map is kind of an overall view of how that includes the surface temperature and the tree
Are you
canopy.
on Zoom, EW?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Sorry. But yeah, this map has the surface temperature that we saw earlier and the tree canopy data combined. So we can observe that tree canopy has a significant impact on cooling down an area. So how does trees support our urban living? This is my favorite tree benefit infographic because from the amazing State of the Urban Forest report developed by the Nature Conservancy. So as of 2021, tree canopy covers 23.4% of New York City, and this canopy coverage provides about 260 million in benefits and services every year for us, including remove a lot of air pollution, provide energy savings, and reduce stormwater runoff. So more specifically for the industrial business zone, how do trees benefit the IBZ? With industrial operations, trees' ability to remove air pollution from the air can help prevent air pollution-induced health events, which is very important for workers who work in the area for prolonged hours of the day, 8 to 10 hours every day. So during my research on tree benefits, there's one study that stuck with me. So trees take up water from the ground and release it through their leaves, cooling the surrounding air. And this process is called evapotranspiration. So a Berkeley lab study found that trees can transpire 100 gallons of water every day, which has the same cooling effect as 5 standard AC units running for 20 hours straight. And that can save a lot of electricity and lots of money, given how quickly our electricity bills have been going up. And another amazing thing that trees do is block sunlight. So by preventing our common building materials from baking in the sun, it can drastically lower the surface temperature of these materials, the materials under the tree canopy, and reduce the cooling needs for a building. So with all of these research about the heat around Newtown Creek and how trees can help, we developed 4 goals for our tree advocacy project. So first is to add more street trees as well as shoreline trees in the industrial areas, and making sure that more community members, workers, and businesses are aware of the heat in the area and its impact. And third is increasing the climate resiliency in the area and to create more habitat for wildlife. So last year, we had 5 amazing fellows who participated in our Urban Heat Island Summer Fellowship. So 2 of the fellows, Anna Chen and Audrey Binder, who are both students at Brooklyn Tech at the time, worked on this project with me. So we analyzed street trees which are under the Parks Department jurisdiction, and we also looked at the private trees that are on private properties, which are under the discretion of private property owners. So first, we looked at public street trees. So there are 170 public street trees within the 1,000 feet radius of English Kills and East Branch, which is a very small number considering how large this area is. But it actually kind of worked out for the fellowship because we had time constraints. So we were able to survey all 170 trees within 2 months. So that is Anna Chen and Audrey Binder. And we went out to survey the street trees 3 times a week, and we had amazing guidance and support from experts from Trees New York, Sam and Sarah. Really appreciate all of your support and help. So we continue the survey criteria from the 2015 tree survey, and we added criteria that are important for our research. That is evidence of stewardship to see if there's anyone who is taking care of those trees. And we also looked at the amount of shade provided to see how many relief are the existing trees providing for workers and residents who live in the area. I think the image is not showing up. But so there the tree status for the study area. So out of the 170 trees, most of them are alive, which is very good news. But there are unfortunately some that are dead in the tree bed, or the tree bed just got paved over. We don't know if it's done legally or illegally. And there are also stumps in the tree, or they're just empty tree beds. And we also looked at how healthy a tree is. So we determined that if a tree has very lush, full canopy, it is in good health. And if a tree is looking a little sparse and has some yellowing leaves and some broken branches, it is in fair health. And if a tree almost lost all of its leaf and it's looked like it's gonna die in the next 2 to 5 years, we logged it as poor health. So the street tree health in the study area, most of them are only doing okay. They need a lot of care, a lot of attention to return to good health or better health. And unfortunately, almost 20% of them are in very poor health. And we also looked at street tree shade in air, which is a very important data point to collect for our research project. And we came up with our own criteria because there's no shade criteria in the 2015 street tree survey. So actually, there's a small story with how we came up with the minimal shade criteria, which is if a shade can fit 1 to 3 person, it has minimal shade. It's because I take the bus home every day from work, and the bus stop has no bus shelter, and there's only one small honey locust tree. So in a hot summer day, like me and other 2 people can fit in the shade, and that's why we determine if a tree has minimal shade, it can only fit 1 to 3 people. And if a tree can fit more than, if the trees can provide shade that fits more than 3 people, it has solid shade. So the English oak on the bottom left has very little shade. So we categorize that as minimal shade. And for the trees on the left and on the top right, we deemed it as shade tree. And people can like walk by and feel the respite of the tree. So we also cataloged all of the conditions that tree is facing. So if a tree has a lot of dead branches, and if a tree needs pruning, and if the tree bed needs to be extended, and if a tree has a lot of weed and trash, which is very common. And the most importantly, we found that the majority of the trees, almost 90% of the trees, didn't have any people taking care of them. So that means that there is the tree guard, there is there is like trash and weed overgrowing. So there is no one who is caring for these trees. So based on the result of these trees, of the survey that we did, we reported the conditions of the trees to the Parks Department. And we also specifically submitted the ones that have empty tree beds, so that the Parks Department know that these are the tree beds that already exist in the IBZs, and they can hopefully utilize those spaces to plant more trees, because these areas have high heat vulnerability index, which the department is prioritizing in tree planting. And we also looked at private property. There are 513 private properties within the 1,000 feet of the English Kill and East Branch tributary. And we analyzed using Google Maps on seeing if a property parcel has tree opportunity or not. So the way we deemed if a parcel has tree opportunity is that it already has existing trees or vegetation growing, so that the property owners are more likely to want to participate in the project, because they don't have to jackhammer their paved road or concrete to create a tree bed. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the existing trees that are in the study area, a lot of times they are tree of heaven. And because the study area includes Newtown Creek, there are a lot of shoreline trees that are growing. So we also looked at shoreline tree opportunity. And if a property parcel is concrete from one corner to the next, does not have tree opportunity. And there are a lot of ambiguous situations because we're only using the Google satellite image. So if there is a tree right in the middle of 4 parcels, we can't really determine where that tree is growing. So maybe one of the property parcel has a tree opportunity. So the result of our private property tree opportunity analysis is that unfortunately most of the properties doesn't have tree opportunity. But that is also, if you can see like the way that the red is dispersed in this map, is that they're also on the outskirts of the study area that does not have shoreline access, and there are also small property parcels. But the very good and exciting news is almost all of the properties that has Newtown Creek shoreline has tree opportunity. So we're very excited to work with these property owners and hopefully can replace some of the invasive species that are already growing on the shoreline and plant native shoreline trees to increase climate resiliency and also reduce air temperature. And I also here want to share a story. An important note is that planting trees in an industrial area is not easy at all and sometimes not feasible. So there are a lot of logistical restrictions and challenges like curb cuts, sidewalk width, turning radius, gas and electrical lines, and truck traffic. So during our project outreach event for businesses, a business owner told us, although she's very interested in having more trees and plantings on her property, she does have a USDA facility and they can't be found with any animal droppings. So we had to brainstorm and be creative and for other options for her to still have plantings, such as planters with a tree planted. So in order to increase tree canopy on private properties, we need to be creative and adaptable and provide enough information and incentives to encourage business buy-in. And outside New York City has so many really good programs to encourage and support public and private efforts to cool the city. So here are some key programs that are available. These programs are great because they also encourage green workforce development and can provide green jobs. So this year is very exciting. I want to highlight is our first urban forest plan. So New York City is developing its first urban forest plan, and I know maybe some folks who joined us today is working on the plan. So this plan will outline strategies to increase New York City's tree canopy equitably to 30% by 2035. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, right now there is about 23.4% canopy coverage in the entire city. And that is this goal 30 by 2035 is mandated by Local Law 148. So this plan will prioritize planting in heat vulnerable areas. So I want to show everyone here that this is a brochure that we developed for this project. And if anyone wants a copy of this brochure, come visit our office at Greenpoint 520 Kingsland Avenue. And just want to show it here. And I want to thank you for generous support from the Hudson River Foundation and the New York, New Jersey Harbor Estuary program, and everyone and our partners who have supported us immensely for this project, and the fellows and interns who worked with me on this project, and also all the research support that we have received from all of these amazing folks. And here are all the references. And yeah, that is the end of the presentation.